Finance Committee meeting of February 18th. Once again, the governor's emergency order is still in place, allowing us to conduct all of our meetings remotely, and our meeting is being recorded by Walpole Media to be rebroadcast, if not also being live now. As a result of those remote meetings, all votes will be done through roll call vote. And to start the meeting, we'll take attendance through roll call. Denny?
Here.
Allie?
Here.
Andrew?
Here.
Steve?
Here.
Susan?
Here.
Jeff is absent. Kathleen?
Here.
Lucy?
Here.
Brian?
Here.
Doug?
Here.
Mark Sullivan?
Here.
Lisa?
Here.
Josette is absent, and myself, so we have 12 in attendance. Alrighty. Tonight we have 3 articles before us, all related to the Personnel Board. Mike is here to answer our questions. And do you have an actual presentation, Mike, or are you just here to answer questions?
I think I do not have a presentation. I think the articles are pretty straightforward, and I've got some material if we, when it gets to Article 3 that we can talk through if you have questions.
I just have a quick question. Are there currently only 4 members on the board, or was somebody absent? Because all your votes were a total of 4 votes.
Yeah, that's a good question. There's 5 of us.
There is 5. Okay, so somebody was absent. I just wanted to get the clarity.
Oh no, if you look at, there's 4 of us. Sorry, 4 including Larry. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there is a vacancy still on that board, just like ours. Right. Article 2. It is recommended for motion that the Personnel Board bylaws be amended to add an additional holiday to the non-union employees called Juneteenth, which is a date that's been established by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts through Massachusetts general laws. And this year will fall on June 19th. June 19th. Any questions or comments? This will bring the the non-union employees up to 12 holidays.
I have a
Good, Doug.
I'm just curious, administratively, last fall we voted a bunch of union contracts that did not include this holiday.
Correct.
How do those contracts get amended to include this holiday?
That gets negotiated. So right now, because I did a quick search, the police and fire, I believe, have 11 holidays. DPW has 12 holidays. This will bring the non-union employees up to 12 holidays, but each of those holidays is negotiated into their contracts. The clerical workers do not have this holiday, and they already have 11 holidays on their list. So if they elect to go forward with this, it'll go through the next union negotiations in 3 years to add this holiday to their list.
Very good, thank you.
Mark, I have a question.
Go ahead, Mark.
So I'm curious, is this make it permanent? June 19th, this holiday will be celebrated, or can it be changed each year?
My understanding, sorry, this is Mike McGrath. My understanding is that it's always June 19th, but it will work similar to the 4th of July. That if it falls on a Sunday, you can observe it on a Monday.
Okay, would it impact the school schedule? In other words, if for some reason, snow days or whatever, school doesn't let out until June 25th, would school be off and the students not go to school that day?
Once again, that falls under the school contracts, and at this point, the schools have not moved to add that holiday to their list. So at this point, basically, we would have about maybe half of Town Hall closed departmentally, and the other half would still be open because this only affects the non-union employees. So the clerical people in collections and treasurer's office, you'd still be able to go in, make payments on that holiday, get copies of bills. You would not be able to get potentially hold of certain other individuals in town hall because they would be actually on the holiday.
So I guess what I'm trying to understand is this like a state and federal mandated holiday that everything is shut down, or is it the town can observe the holiday and not at its own choice?
Well, it's not a federal holiday, but it was passed by Massachusetts legislation, so the state offices definitely will be closed. Mike, was this a mandatory holiday? Because I mean, the way the article was written, it basically says that Massachusetts established this holiday so that state municipal offices would be closed. So is that something that the town can opt out of?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
Sorry, I can take that back to the
Okay.
to the team.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm wondering is the town being asked or being told the state's declared a holiday, therefore you have to implement what the state said, or is it the town has an option if it wants to choose to observe the holiday and it can modify it accordingly? That's what I'm a little unclear of.
Okay. I had a similar question in that too. Yes, Denny.
I was say maybe a simpler way of asking this is, Mike, how did this proposal come about? How was it presented to the personnel board? Was it something you originated, or was it brought by a third?
No, it was. So Jim and team brought it to the table in our December meeting, which I was not in attendance there, as a result of them passing the state legislation that made this a formal holiday, and the request was to kind of move this forward. So
Okay.
So,
Alrighty. I mean,
did that help you, Mark Sullivan?
No.
Yeah.
No, I still don't understand if we are implementing a mandated holiday and these are the offices that are closed or whatever, or if the town can modify, has a choice in what it wants to do or not to do.
I think it was there was some information in the memo.
yeah, I mean, it does quote Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 6, Section 15, followed by 5Bs, establishes the holiday. And actually,
Mark, in the second paragraph, it actually says it requires all state and municipal offices to close.
yeah,
So it says it's a required.
okay. Well, actually, the way that was the way they referenced it in the second paragraph was establishing this holiday, adds this holiday to the list of holidays established by the state. So it sounds like it is just being added because the state added it, but it also is like we're adding it to the list of already approved state holidays. But do we have an option to opt out of adding it to the holiday?
Well, there's a piece there that says that although the state municipal offices are being closed or defined by the statute, the issue of pay as opposed to having a day off is defined by the bylaw. I'm not.
Okay.
I guess I would have to go back. I would have to go back to Jim to find out if this is a case where we're running into a situation where we're saying that the offices are closed, but then non-union personnel have to go to work, and it makes it kind of messy. So I think we'd have to bring that back to Jim as a question.
Okay. Alrighty. Yeah. So it just from the quick discussion, it sounds like we're not ready to act on this because there are some loose ends to get answers to. Specifically, are we mandated that we have to adopt this, or can we opt out? And from the last paragraph that was in the write-up, which Jim references, our bylaws, Article 502 holidays, it looks like by just adding this to the list, an employee can get holiday pay as long as they work the day before, or if they're on vacation, the holiday will count as a holiday paid day and not a vacation day, and so forth. So they will get paid for the holiday if we adopt it. Yes, Denny.
I read that the state is mandating that we close the offices that day. It's the town's decision whether to pay people or, have a non-paid holiday off. So, they're going to be closed. They don't have the option of working. So the town, it sounds as though the way the state law was written, the town has the option to pay or not pay. I would say let's confirm that with Jim.
Yeah. Okay.
That being said, I would say if the state, let's pay them. They would have worked anyhow and go from there. So
right.
How do you all want me to follow back up with you? Do you want me to reach out to Jim and have him follow up?
Yeah, have Jim research. Is it mandatory? And
yep.
If it's mandatory, then obviously we're going to move forward on acting on it. Like I said, the last paragraph of his memo basically looks like the employees will get paid for it.
Yeah.
And the only other question is, where now the state has passed a law, do the union contracts now have to be negotiated because the state is now mandating that the government offices be closed? So,
great.
Yeah.
I'll get him those questions tonight and get back to you.
Okay, and then we can move on it at next week's meeting. Okay.
I think Doug.
Yeah, I guess I was reading the language, and I'm wondering about the very last paragraph or the very last sentence where it talks about employees, who have to work, can get another day at a future time, but it has to be before the end of the fiscal year. So they only have 10 days to kind of pick another vacation day. And I guess it just, I feel bad for people who have to work, and then they basically have, 2 days or 10 days to pick from. I'm not sure if that language is kind of standard or if it could match the the 30 days from the holiday or something different. It just seems like a very short period of time to then be given to pick your holiday. And I don't know if that was discussed at the personnel board at all or not, but it just kind of seems unfair to be given such a short period of time to take that day.
I guess I just have one other comment. Juneteenth. Do we have to call it that? I mean, I don't understand how they came up. I understand how they came up with the name, but it doesn't really mean anything to what the day is supposed to recognize. But that's just me.
It has a long-standing meaning out there, Mark, to the people that have put this forward and driven it. Just doesn't. You're just not as familiar with it, but if you read up on it, it has long-standing terminology.
Right. No. Yeah. So I understand. I appreciate the significance of it. I don't have any issue with it. It's just a strange name. That's all. To me.
Okay. All right. So we'll table this to another meeting where Jim can come back with a couple of answers to our questions. Article 3 is the cost of living adjustment to the pay schedules, and Jim provided us with copies of the professional schedule and the hourly schedules, including those rate 1 3/4% increases. Any questions or comments with regards to, yes, Brian, and then Allie, and then Lisa?
Through you, Mark, to Mike. Mike, I see in this vote it was 3-1. What was that one person's objection to it, and did they have a different point of view?
Yeah, so the dissenting vote, we had a similar vote in last year's with last year's increase, and it really it comes down to the overall sustainability of giving folks both a COLA and their step increase at the same time, and just kind of looking forward, does the town have the right plan in place to sustain both of these increases into the future? So we recognize that as a concern every time that we talk through this, and I think that the rest of the group was very thoughtful in looking at all of the data and all of the stuff that's brought to us. So we look at a lot of things. We look at economic indicators. We look at the union wages and the school committee wage proposed increases for the union side there, as well as non-union increases in other towns. And we try to be we try to be competitive there. And I think most of us were separating the steps from the COLA increase, recognizing that one is merit and one is really just kind of keeping up with the cost of living. So I think last year's increase was proposed at 2%. I think this year we were a little bit more conservative and came down to 1.75, which still makes us competitive and can retain the talent that we have, and still understand and that we're going through kind of a crazy time with the pandemic. So that's really where the rest of the group landed.
Okay, thank you. And then one follow-up. For the towns that you used to compare us with, were they neighboring towns or were they like-sized towns in the Commonwealth?
Both. So we used for I'll give you a few. For the non-union comparison, we did Dover, Stoughton, Wellesley, Medway, Acton, and Rockland were some of the comparable ones. Stoughton's cost of living increase was 175 like ours. The Acton came in much lower at 1%, and the other towns, Wellesley and Dover, were 2%. So we felt that we came in at a good number there.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Quick question, Mike, on those comparisons where they were 1% and 2%, where does their actual salary and hourly schedule compare to ours? Are they catching up to us? Are they dropping back to us? Where do we kind of fall into that mix?
It's a good question. I don't have that data in front of me, but I can get back to you on it.
Okay.
And I will just another thing that we use is for economic indicators. We look at cost of living increases proposed across Boston, the Northeast, as far as different percentages. And an average of all of those came in around 1.73. So we're a little bit higher than the average for the larger metrices, I guess, and kind of falling in line with the towns around us.
Allie?
Thank you, Mark. Most of my questions, Brian, were the same, but I just wanted to check in with what towns do we compare to, and the schedule that you sent in the memo. Those are all the non-union.
Yes.
Okay.
Give Andrew, Mark.
Oh, okay. Actually, did Lisa have a question? Her hand was no. Okay. Okay. Andrew, then Susan.
Hi. Great job, Mike. As always, appreciate the work of the personnel board. It's not even a strong concern, but just a comment, I guess, worth putting out here is, I would think maybe 2% would be better, and here's why. This is a prospective increase, right? It's for fiscal year 2022 for the future, and the reason I say 2% is the Federal Reserve, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, last August announced a change in the inflation mandate, and so usually for the last few decades it's been a target of 2% for inflation, but they've adjusted that as an average of 2% versus as kind of a ceiling. And when you look at Treasury securities, when you look at financial markets, investors have changed their inflation expectations upward to be a little bit over 2% for the decade ahead. And I think we're splitting hairs here, right? Ultimately, the difference between 1.75% and 2% is what, $11,000? And so I don't think it's problematic at all to vote this 1.75% increase in. I just think that it's a nice gesture going forward to think about how, again, you can't predict the future. The Fed's inflation target is itself a movement is not always hit, to say it lightly. Often the Fed goes under, typically goes under 2%. So we'll see if they can actually do that to raise inflation up a little bit. Obviously, we don't want inflation to get out of control. I don't mean to dive into the weeds here on the macroeconomics of it. I just think going forward, we want to do justice. We want to do our non-union town employees justice in terms of signaling to them, hey, we are going to take care of you. We're going to retain you. And again, the difference between 2 and 1.75% is ultimately minuscule for a lot of people. I just think it's something maybe the personnel board in the years to come should think about, because inflation expectations are rising. That's just my only comment.
Thanks, Andrew.
Do you have a question, comment, Mike, or?
No, thank you.
Go ahead, Susan.
Through you, I'm going to focus on the the salary schedule. I took the time to go through the book after our last meeting, and I compared the salary schedule to the amount of the employment contracts we're paying to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 positions that were identified as individuals being paid under an employment contract. So there are several issues that I want to raise. First of all, we have a salary schedule. If we approve it, that would have, as an example, the DPW director, let's say, being paid $143,552 if he or she were at the step 15, and yet we're paying $400 more according to the budget book on that line item for his salary. But if you look at building inspection, IT director, the top step on that P5 is $113,900, and then what we are paying is $118,600, and IT shows that top rate with another $2,000 added. Here's my point. My point is that if we're approving a salary schedule, but we're not actually using it for the stated positions, I'm wondering what's the point of going through this exercise of approving the salary schedule if we then don't apply it to all the positions? The second thing I'm concerned about is, as I said at our last meeting, what's the trigger for going off the reservation, so to speak, and doing a personal employment contract rather than adhering to the salary schedule? I'm also concerned about transparency. When do we get to read those employment contracts? I'm also concerned with the ability of the Finance Committee and also town meeting to actually have a voice in what the salaries are. So, for example, if we're paying someone not from the salary schedule but by an employment contract, it seems to me the only way that Finance Committee or a town meeting could affect the decision to pay that individual a given sum of money is to disapprove that department's budget, which seems to me to be a rather draconian approach. On the other hand, if we just have to approve, if we're just looking at the department's budget and approving it, we don't get a say in what that individual is being paid. So I'm highlighting not at all the substance of any of these contracts because I've not read them. I don't know the facts behind why an employment contract was deemed appropriate for one person and not another. I don't know how the amounts were arrived at. I don't know what the system was for coming up with the figure that that appears in those contracts and in our budget books. So the first concern I have is process. It appears to me that Personnel Board is not playing a role in this, and I think that the Personnel Board should be playing some role, review or input, recommendation, something. And I think that these contracts should be made, I know Jim said that they're available to the town clerk. I've not gone down to get them, but I think that they should be provided to us. I think we should have access to them. We should read them. And again, I'm not commenting so much on substance right now because I don't have the facts and I really can't form an opinion as to whether any of these contracts are good or bad or people are being underpaid, overpaid, what have you. But there's a definite disconnect where we have a salary schedule that states particular positions, and yet some of them are some positions are just paid without regard to the salary schedule. So I'm concerned about process, and I'm not sure what to do about it, except at this point, I feel like our hands are tied. Let's say that for a given position, this group felt that the salary was too high, let's say. What could we do? Once you sign a contract, there's a contract. We can't unsign the contract. So basically, we're being given a fait accompli with the salary for that particular position, where personnel board, I don't think, has had input. We certainly haven't had input. And our only ability at this point is to say, well, we're going to approve this department's budget or not, because we're unhappy with the salary. And again, I'm not pointing to any particular position. As long as I've been on finance committee, which is over 10 years now, I know the town administrator and the fire chief and police chief have had employment contracts, and the salaries have not appeared to me to be out of line. And I'm not saying that any of these are out of line. I'm just saying that they're proliferating. So we've gone from 3 to now 8, and I'm not counting the school superintendent, which has also traditionally been contract. But we're up to 8, and as I said last time, where are we going with this? Are we going to have employment contracts for any employee who asks for one or makes a good argument for one? And I think we're kind of losing control here over the ability to manage salaries. So I just want to throw that out there. I'm not saying anything that we can do tonight or should do, except I just have a problem, voting on a salary schedule where I know that there are at least 8 individuals who are being paid above the top step of the grade that they're shown as, reflected as being paid.
Actually, got a question for you, Susan. When you were looking at those budget line items for those people under contracts, was there a longevity line item for those people also, or maybe that's built into their compensation elsewhere?
I did not take note of that.
Okay.
I saw that there was a contract and an amount.
I mean, they shouldn't be getting the best of both worlds. They shouldn't be getting a contract and then also getting personnel board benefits that aren't outlined in the contract.
Part of the problem is we don't know what's in the contract.
Right.
We don't know. I don't know how the term is. I don't know. And again, it might be if I had these contracts in front of me and the information about, well, this is why we paid this individual this amount and here's what went into it, I might say, great, I think that's a fabulous decision. But my concern is the process, that it's not being, in my view, and I used to sit on personnel board, I think we need to honor that group's expertise by having them at least have some input into it. Perhaps, they need to go do a better survey than they're doing if we feel that the survey isn't, matching up with what we're ultimately paying these people. So again, I just want to say, I don't know what's in the contract, so this is really not a comment about substance as much as it is, what's the process? And it seems to me, and I know a number of us over the years have complained about union contracts. Well, get the contract, what can we do about it? Well, there are negotiations, and it's true we don't get to sit in on them and so forth. But these are not union negotiations. These are negotiations done with the town administrator and the select board apparently. And we really don't. At the end of the day, once you have a contract, that's it. We're done. It doesn't matter. So if the pay were $500,000, I guess our only choice would be to disapprove, not approve that department's budget. So I'm concerned about the process. Substance might come later, but not now.
Other people have concerns? Do we want to table this article also?
I appreciate sorry.
Go ahead, Denny.
I appreciate Susan's concerns. I don't disagree with her at all, but I don't think we need to change the article because, as she points out, there's nothing that those concerns will have to do with this article. And this is for the following year. So I would be fine in voting on this tonight. And I think going forward, she makes some good points that we should be looking into and getting more information in the future.
Kathleen?
And I agree with Susan's points too, but I feel the opposite of Denny. I just feel like if not now, when, in terms of getting some answers. I think if we push this down the road, vote on this article, we get tied up in other things and this sort of goes away until it's too late to do anything about it next year. So I would be more inclined to say, let's put this on hold and try to get a few answers, or at least raise this issue to a point where we can have a conversation about it. I did put in the notes that there is a longevity item. We were talking specifically about IT director, so there is a longevity item there. So I really don't understand how this happens, and maybe it's just a conversation about how it happens, but I would prefer to wait.
Okay. All right. By a quick show of hands, is that the consensus? We want to defer, or do we want to ask for a motion from someone?
I have no problem in deferring either. So
okay.
I will not push that issue that we need to vote on it.
Okay. All right. So as chairman, I'm going to move to defer action on 2, 3, and 4, because actually 4 ties into 3, because the funding source for in Article 4 is the budget. So really, there would be no action on 4 to begin with. But if we're making changes, then that means the budget has to change. So with that being the only articles on the agenda for tonight, because Walpole Media had to move to another date. Thank you, Mike. We'll look forward to the answers that Jim for us.
It went well, I think.
Yes.
One more thing. Jim mentioned that he was going to get us the legal position of town council that was the foundation for being able to do this. And you know, I'm not questioning whether it's legal or not, but I would like to see that legal opinion as well. So I think really we need more information. So I'm glad we're going to defer.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, guys.
Got a couple of scheduling items to just run over with everybody else before we break apart. Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
All right. So on Monday we have sewer and water budgets and related articles. That would be supplement of the current budget, which Jim's recommendations now are to hold off on Articles 7 and 9. But the sewer and water commissioners will give us an update as to where they see the trend going in their collections, and what they'll need for funds to supplement the current year. They have not voted on next year's budget yet, because there's, I believe, at least 2 commissioners that do not enjoy doing Zoom meetings because they don't feel the public gets adequate input. So they basically have not voted their budgets. So looks like Monday might just be informational on Articles 7 through 10. Next Thursday will be assessments and fringe benefits and public safety. So we'll have the fire chief and police chief in. Next Thursday could be a long discussion. Usually it is with their budgets, especially where we're adding personnel. And then Monday the 1st is our first pass at the education budget. Jim did say that he would make sure they got us information at least a week in advance of that meeting so we could look it over. Then it looks like we've got kind of a busy schedule for Monday the 9th. I have a conflict for March 4th and possibly for March 12th. So I'm looking to put Articles 2, 3, and 4 on Monday, March 16th. Is that too far out, or is everybody comfortable with that? I got a thumbs up from Denny and Brian. Mark? Okay.
March 15th, right? 15th.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Whatever. Monday.
Monday the 15th.
That work?
Yeah. Wait. No. March 16th is a Monday, isn't it?
No.
No.
Oh, March 15th? Okay. Jim's calendar's off then. Okay. Yes, that'll be 2, 3, and 4.
So Mark, I'm just looking, so you're saying that we will not have meetings on the 4th, 8th, or 11th?
No, there is one on the 8th. That's citizens petitions.
Okay, so
But
not,
the 4th and the 11th, I may have conflicts.
okay.
The 4th, I'm pretty sure I do. The 11th, I'm not sure. So, yeah, so it'll be the 8th for the citizens petitions, then the following Monday on the 15th for Articles 2, 3, and 4. Yes, Kathleen.
Mark, for the first, we're talking about education.
Yes.
I might not be the right night for it, but the tri-county thing really bothers me, and I don't know, we had them in last year and we spoke to them, but do we have any time on our schedule to talk about that?
Yeah, I will. I don't know if Jim was going to cover that on the first or not, but yes, we will definitely be discussing Tri-County. The school committee also was involved in an email stream on that, and it looks like we've actually doubled the number of students that went to Tri-County this year. So that's part of the bump, is that tuition is based on number of kids enrolling, and it looks like we jumped from like 4 kids that started this school year to 82 that are currently going. So there was a bump in enrollments. That's part of the jump in the cost.
Sorry,
There's also
4 kids to 82?
I believe it was 44 to 82.
44, yeah. Sorry.
44, yeah. Yeah.
Now, you said, we just heard the 4.
Sorry.
I'm pretty sure that it was 44.
44, yes.
I heard the same thing, Captain.
Thanks.
Okay. Alrighty. Yeah. So I'll get that information to Jim for the schedule changes on 2, 3, and 4, and I'll ask him when we can put in Tri-County, and yeah, look forward to seeing everybody on Monday, which most likely I said would be an informational meeting on sewer and water, where they stand and where they think they're going to be next year. Any other questions or comments? Was that a thumbs up, Andrew, or you got a question?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Okay.
Just a thumbs up. Good job.
Okay. Alrighty. So we'll do a motion to adjourn. Denny, seconded by Susan. Okay. Alrighty. Okay. In favor of adjourning, Denny.
Yeah.
Allie.
Yes.
Andrew.
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Lucy.
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Doug.
Yes.
Mark Sullivan.
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
And myself. That's 12:00. We are adjourned. Enjoy your weekend.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.